Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Master Connector Show. I'm so excited to be bringing you this show today. This topic that we have going from selfish to selfless, right? This self-oriented view, and talking to Steve and talking about the kind of different points that he talks on and bringing people together and making it easier for you to connect with other people on LinkedIn and beyond. This has been a point, this particular point wasn't always clear in my head. So I'm glad that we went through the process of getting today's show, because when you understand, like, if you're shy and you're self-focused and how that doesn't really serve you and the purpose that you have in life, that's what we're talking about today. We're also talking about that person that's reaching out to you on LinkedIn that's just trying to sell their product, and with no thought or concern on who you are and what value you bring. That's what we're talking about. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to play our intro video with me. Stick with me. We're going to have a great show today. This is the Master Connector Show.
Steve Spiro, you're a mentor, you're a consultant, you're a business owner, but most importantly, you're a host of your own show, and you're also a master connector.
Steve Spiro is one of my idols, and I love listening to everything that he does. He's such a dynamic individual.
Some of the topics I really enjoy speaking on is how to really connect, whether it be in person or through social media. I love to lead with my weaknesses. I lead with, my vulnerabilities. It's fine because I'm okay with who I am. Number two is how to go from being inward focused, self-focused, into others focused. Being willing to give and go out there and look to serve. That will attract the right things. Another one is on leveraging LinkedIn to really grow your business. You could reach a lot more people. You could broadcast a message to people that actually consented to want to know you. And then lastly, overcoming big obstacles.
I love sharing. I was a shy, introverted kid, picked on, bullied, learning disabled, dyslexic, really in a dark place. I was really in a box, in a shell, and I've been able to break out of that box. And so I love being able to inspire people and really help them. So the Master Connector was born.
The world is my networking event, right? I meet people all the time. My goal is to meet 3 strangers every single day.
Steve is open to meeting you. You should set up a face-to-face with Steve. One little conversation can really change your life. All right, Steve, here we are. We got everybody checking in here. Susan Castelli in the house. Thank you so much. If you are tuning in with us live right now, make sure you're getting into the comments, letting us know where you're viewing from, letting us know that you're in the chat, network in the comments. This is going to be an exciting show. Steve, we got a video to play. I think we're going to set that up. Talk to us about this video that we're going to jump into.
Yeah, so I appreciate it, Cameron, and thanks for all the magic you do behind the scenes here. Appreciate you, sir. But yeah, I was having my nephew over, Pierce, and we were looking for something to watch, and I remember watching this movie before, Coach Carter, and it really, that scene that we're going to play just gets to me every time. So we're going to ask you as you watch this video, I want you to, and we want to hear you in the comments for sure. What are your biggest fears, and how do we get over them? And as you watch this video, you're gonna get a better understanding of it. So let's go ahead and play that video. Not hearing you, sir.
About going from self-oriented to others focused, right? Self-oriented to selfless. I love that line, right? We're talking about today's subject. So I love the way self-focused to selfless. It sounds so good. Here it is. Check this video out from Coach Carter.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were all meant to shine as children do. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
There we go.
Sir, I just want to say thank you. You saved my life.
All right. So while Steve here wipes away the tears.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man, that gets me every time. So, yeah, so I Cameron and I were talking about the show, and we were talking about how we can really make an impact on you guys. And so I'm going to share some things that maybe publicly, some you've heard, maybe not. Most of it, I'm sure you haven't. I kind of, Cameron had pointed out, you breeze over this sort of shy, introverted, picked on, bullied thing, and it doesn't really, people don't really understand what that means. So I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of my background. So I grew up with no real father figure in my life. My dad, because he was working all the time, he only played baseball with me one time. Never came to my games. He didn't teach me how to, about girls, how to fight. None of the things that normal young boys kind of go through. And I've learned that, who you are today is often formed in the 0 to 7 year old range. And so that was kind of how I started. And, because of some of that, picked on and bullied and ridiculed. And, I'm going to share this. I don't think I shared this publicly, but my nickname growing up was Spaz because I was uncoordinated. I was kind of like awkward around people. When pickup games, going on, in the neighborhood, right, basketball or whatever it was, I was the last selected, if I was even picked at all, And, my parents wound up getting divorced at age 11. And, there was another rejection. My dad didn't want to be around us. And, and back then, I know it's much more acceptable today, being divorced, having, broken family. But in those years, it was very socially unacceptable. And I, again, sort of made me this sort of outcast. And then I struggled in school. I didn't know I was learning disabled. I didn't know I was dyslexic. I didn't even know what that meant. And maybe it wasn't even a term that was even talked about at all. I remember when I was asked to read out loud in the school, how I would just turn beet red and I would stutter and I would struggle and I'd see the giggles in the classroom around me. And it was hard, and it was awkward. I was awkward around people, especially girls, females, right? I remember having the only girlfriend that I had growing up for the most part. And I thought she was the one, and you have very few selections. She's the one, right? And I remember she must have sent her best friend to me to break up with me in a really mean way. Okay, it wasn't like hey, she was thinking about. It was like she hates your guts, she thinks you're ugly, she didn't want to see you again. So another rejection, and then also growing up, my best friend growing up, he moved away, and we didn't get to connect at all. And again, there was no social media back then, so. But what happened for me is the TV became my best friend. And I started to go into a shell. And I started to, all this pain that I was dealing with, I started to realize, what? I'm going to be this person who's going to block my feelings. No emotion, no feelings. And to the point where, and, if my sisters are listening, I don't know if they are, but if my sister, they'll confirm it. I asked my sisters, they said, all right, see, take my hand. You could bite it, you could scratch it, you could pinch it, no pain. I figured out a way how to block pain out. I went into this little shell that I kind of went into. And then at some point, right around my late teens, early adulthood, martial arts came into the picture. And they taught, well, show no emotion and don't show, have no pain. I'm like, wow, this is great. This is exactly perfect for me. And so I kind of thrived in that area, in that arena to a degree. But at the same time, I still experienced a different form of ridicule. My sensei, who was a mountain of a man, he nicknamed me the blockhead, and I always felt undervalued and like somebody was, I was never good enough, right? He had his favorites, his pets, if you will, and I certainly wasn't one of them. I was short on the short side, short limbs, and pretty much after my hips come my feet. I mean, very small legs, and so, but I started to say, you know what, here's my chance to show him and to show the world. And I wanted to become a black belt. And in fact, what happened was I actually passed them all except for one guy. Right. So, but growing out, up through that, and even in the martial arts, I really had no relationship skills. I had no people skills, no social skills, not a bit. But kind of growing up, I also I give credit to my grandma who she recognized I had some talent, and she saw that I had a knack for drawing and some creativity, and she helped me sort of channel that creativity. And I learned how to do that. And the creativity aspect with the learning disability, I started to use that as an asset. I said, okay, I have a creative way to think of things, and and I don't know if I was consciously doing it, but I figured out that I could use it to my advantage, and I wound up going into advertising and actually thrived there. And eventually wound up having a team of people that reported to me. And now I started to see how I had an impact on some people. And I really started to enjoy and love the idea of having people and helping them and kind of leading them. There was a point where I still felt like I was not enough. I always felt that there was something more. I was destined for greatness. And so mentorship came into my life. And some of you guys have heard me tell a story through a good friend in advertising. I was introduced to a very successful entrepreneur. And he got me kind of on this path of self-development, of mentorship. And I started to, heal myself a bit. And I started to hear phrases like, hey, he said to me, listen, I'll believe in you till eventually you believe in me, till eventually you believe in yourself. And I'm like, wow. And then it brings goosebumps to myself just to think about that right now. But I started to rebuild myself from ground zero, from ground up. And I found joy in paying it forward. And the more I started to help others and show my vulnerability, the more I started to really feel fulfilled. And so, I have a statement here that, and it's kind of like what I realized was in all this, and again, this is not a woe was me, story at all. What I realized is these piles of inadequacies and hangups could have buried me. And I think for a lot of people, sometimes it does. But instead of those piles burying me, I stood upon those piles as a mountain to stand upon and rise above the circumstance. So that's kind of how it all began. And, obviously, I'm still on a journey. I don't feel like I've arrived by any means, but I just wanted to, Cameron and the world to hear a little bit more about what this, and I'm hoping that some of this relates to some of you folks. I really do. So Cameron, I'll turn it over to you. We might be a little ahead of schedule on timing, but I just feel like it was important to share that story.
I just want to shout out folks. First of all, great story, Steve. I know that I think you did lend some more insight into, shy, picked on, right? Definitely a lot more context for people to sort of pull from. We got Maggie Carey checking in. Thanks for checking in, Maggie. We got Mr. Cool Ass Chris Dutra in the house. Thank you for being here. Susan Castelli, such a deep share. Thanks for that. I think in terms of just being people, right, we sort of assume a lot about other people, and we say, well, they're successful, everything must have gone right for them. And I think more often than not, the case is that it hasn't, right? I'm always surprised that like the beauty queen or the sports jock that's got really a lot going on in their life, typically the performer, right, has got stuff going on. It's how they're able to empathize and connect with people. It's, I don't want to say that that's the reason that somebody always becomes popular, but there's a reason that somebody's voice stands out. And time again, I know I have the conversation with people. If you want to be like Tony Robbins, if you want to be like Oprah, it's telling your story. Because if you're keeping it all in, and you're just focusing on what you need from the conversation and you're not giving of yourself, then you're not giving of yourself, right? And
I want to reflect on that a little bit, if you don't mind. And
please.
And you mentioned about the star quarterback, right? The popular guy in high school, right? And I certainly wasn't that, right? But it's interesting, right? On my LinkedIn profile, and hopefully if you haven't connected with me, you will, and also with Cameron. But on my profile, part of my title at the top, I say, if you have grit, connect with me. And, what I've learned in seeing some of those super popular people, often they're so popular because things came easy to them, right? They had some talent. They were tall. They were handsome. They grew up and, and almost had no challenges. And then I find, and you hear tons of stories, especially in middle America, right? Where these guys become like, they become blue collar workers, right? They were the most, popular, you would think they'd be president of the United States or something great. And then they just settle in because the minute adversity hits them, they're like, what is this? I don't get it. Right. So if you could learn to take the obstacles, the challenges, the things that you find, the fears, all the things, use those as a way to leverage and know that if you've gotten through those challenges, you could do anything. That's why I really respect. I forget what the name of the particular president. It might have been Johnson, Lyndon, LBJ, or whatever. I don't remember, but he was brought on as a president. I guess it might have been right after Kennedy was assassinated. And again, I might have the facts wrong, but you get the point of it. And his chief of staff and his team was asking for what the qualifications for somebody to be vice president. And he's like, I want somebody who's failed at a lot of things. And they're like, what? Because they wanted people that, yeah, he said, because, I want somebody who's got grit. And I'm paraphrasing, I'm using my own language here, but people that are used to failing, but they get through it, right? If you read the story of President Lincoln, and there's a litany of all these things that he went through between losing a wife and nervous breakdown and running for this office and running for this office and it goes on and on and on. And I remember hearing it for the first time. I heard they didn't say who it was, and then at the end they revealed it was President Lincoln. I was shocked. I was like, he's been through all that, or was through all that, and now look at him. He's president of the United States and responsible for reuniting the United States and abolishing slavery and so forth, right? So amazing, right? But all the adversities that he went through. So again, if you're going through stuff, understand, right? That's you could leverage it, right? Don't focus on it, but leverage it. And now see how you could take your eyes off for other people and put them, put off yourself and put them onto other people. And we have a few things that we're going to go through in a little bit on maybe some tools for you. But Cameron, I'll turn it to you because I know you've been through your share of challenges as well.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about, my story a lot in terms of challenges with education, and that's how that's sort of driven my thought process around getting into a place where, and it sounds grandiose. Sometimes when I say it, it sounds grandiose, but really helping on a really broad scale. I've been focused very, very, very at the core of the nonprofit that I work with, providing college and career preparation for a single high school and a single place in the world, A. Philip Randolph Campus High School. But the larger mission is to provide that kind of help, that kind of assistance everywhere. If somebody's looking for education, if they're looking for opportunity, finding ways to make sure that people have access to it. I mean, I think companies like Google have been amazing because they've been able to expand that. But, if you're in a place where Google isn't helping you, and that might be right here in the United States where, you just don't know the questions to ask, or it might be in a place where you just don't have access to those things. That's important to me because my educational journey was not only fraught with just not being focused, but, then I'm having a child at 19, and I talk a lot about that. And it's a nerve-wracking thing to talk about big failures or mistakes in your life because is somebody going to judge you? Is my own son, is he gonna, come and say something because our relationship isn't great? So there's this fear, like, you're a fake, you're a fraud, and you're saying something that isn't true. And I try to represent myself as justly and fairly as I can, with all the kind of ramifications of that. But the fact of the matter is, if I could have done it differently for him so that he would have had a more supportive life with a mother and father, like the 4 children that I'm raising with my wife, that's what I would have wanted for him. I would want him to start out with a base that he felt loved and supported on all sides and had access to that love and support on all sides, and stability and consistency in his life. And so that's part of my education, right? That is a big part of who I am. And what got me to that point was not putting any forethought into what was going to come ahead of me, right? I wasn't thinking about the future. I wasn't thinking about, I certainly wasn't thinking about what was going to happen to this son that I didn't even think about making, right? So really just, what are the consequences of your actions if you don't think and you don't think about others first, right? I mean, it's really, I wasn't thinking about others. I was just thinking about myself in the moment and having fun, and what are the actual ramifications of that? And so if we sort of change from that inward focus to, hey, how does this affect the other person? I'm reaching out to them, doing it in such a way where I'm not shy. I understand that I have value and that I have a purpose and I have something to offer of value, but I'm also doing it in a way that's caring about the other person's time, what they may be thinking. I'm doing it in a way that's hopefully helpful. That's a big deal, whether it's a sales thing, guidance, help, shouting out and saying hello. We all know that person that steps into the cubicle and is just doing something in a way that is self-serving versus helping, lifting me up, being nice, being generous, right? We know what that is, right? So I need you to come in for that I'm going to mess it up the reference, that DEP report on Saturday. Self-serving, right? He's not coming over to say hello. He's not coming over to actually do something for you. He's coming over to do something to you and just get something for himself. We know what those kind of relationships are. So are you supportive to the people around you? Are you taking into consideration the value that they provide? And I think that's such a big deal. And when we were talking about this, that moving, I was thinking about my nieces and nephew, because you were talking about your nephew moving somebody from a place where they're shy, they're afraid, because they're too much in their own head, to a place where they can't actually offer that value to people because they're thinking about things in a way where they're like, you know what, my experience is valuable and can be valuable to people. Reading The Go-Giver, the idea that being open to opportunity and understanding that you can read the world, but that takes you kind of having to be out of your own head, focused only on the sale, the looking good, the not making a fool of yourself, and actually not caring so much about that, but more about helping the other person.
Yeah, I mean, great points, phenomenal, and thank you for sharing a little bit of your heart in terms of your background as well. And you mentioned sales, and of course, famous iconic guy Zig Ziglar, who's no longer with us, but he has a great phrase, and we might have a visual to put up. I'm not sure, Cameron. Maybe but you can have everything in life that you want if you help just enough people get what they want, right? And so it's awesome, and that's that's a great way to live. And I don't know if it's ever happened to you. I know it's happened to me. Is when I get a little bit, I don't know, nasty to somebody, not intentional. It wasn't just short with somebody. Yeah, I might feel good for the moment, but when I do the opposite and I go out of my way to almost be kind, maybe sometimes kill them with kindness almost. It's amazing how much better you feel, and not to do it to be vindictive, but to do it because it brings you joy. So definitely look for ways in which you can be a blessing to others and go help others, right? And whether you're in a leadership role, I love the idea of today business is moving more and more from management to leadership and to mentorship, right? A lot of more organizations are having mentoring roles for people in the because it's helping both sides of the fence. It's helping the mentor and the mentee, right? So just looking to do things like that is whether you're in a management position or not. There it is. Look at that energy. The guy had so much energy too, right? But there's the quote, right, from Zig. But and if you're not in a leadership or management role, you still have influence, right? You could be a blessing to other people, So and I know I gave it in one of my previous posts, videos about you could be the thermometer or the thermostat, right? You can indicate or dictate the environment through what you do or not do, right? So if you go into an environment where you're like, everyone's a little bit, the energy's low and people kind of look like they hate being here, or you could just you could bring on the energy and you could change it, right? You could, and maybe it won't happen overnight, but over time it does take effect. And if nothing more, you feel better, right? Don't allow yourself to become, a victim of that. Yeah, I mean, there's another quote that, Cameron, thank you for bringing this up. Great movie, I mean, you could talk about the actors, whatever, but in the movie, it's a great quote. And one of the gentlemen that I'm blessed to be mentored by, one of his favorite slogans, and I've adopted it, which is, in serving each other, we become free. And there is a freedom in that, right? It's where we look to be served. There tends to be a sort of a bondage, but when you reach out and help other people, yeah, definitely. Yeah, sorry, Susan, it's just seeing that. So in serving each other, we become free. I'm assuming that the read it out loud is that.
Yeah, I don't know if she was talking about this one, that you can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. I know Steve mentioned it before, and Mr. Cool Chris Dutra was in the comments, and I love that one from Ziegler, and our favorite Bob Berg, right? He talks about this too.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, we could kind of move into some tools, Cameron, if you like.
Please.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and again, I don't want to get religious on anyone. I'm not a religious person, but I will say that spirituality is so important to kind of get you healed and, and heal yourself. And whether it's God, higher power, you could worship Barney Rubble. As long as there's something greater than yourself, a power greater than oneself, that's what I'm referring to. I have my own beliefs, but again, they say avoid the two things, right? Politics and religion. So I'm not going to get in that, but definitely find something. Meditation and self-discovery is super huge. I may have mentioned this on one of my broadcasts, but I remember going to a silent meditation retreat, and it's the one and only time I've gone, and it was a very impactful experience. It was 3 nights, 4 days. Great. It was in this really beautiful, secluded area of the woods, and when I got there, and I didn't really I didn't know what to expect. I tend to go into things without doing a ton of research, but it kind of had come recommended, so I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And here we are. And basically the rule was, when you go there, you don't say anything and you don't look at anyone. You don't look at people's eyes. And it's wild. And so we're in there, and and they, after about a day, they said, we're going to have you, before they made you go silent, they said, we're going to have a sort of a session about a day in, just to check in with you, see how you're doing. And so it was a group of us. There was like 6 or 8, I forget, in a little office. And what happened in that first day, it happened in that first day. I don't know why. I'm not sure exactly why, but I looked at, there was a bird on a branch or whatever. I don't know, really kind of obscure. But I looked at it, and just something hit me. And it said, you know what? You're okay. It's okay. They're okay. We're okay. And I got peace in myself. And so, maybe you need to do a little bit of self-discovery, some meditation, go on a little bit of a journey, but don't let that journey be too long, because the journey, honestly, is going to be a lifelong journey. My journey of self-discovery and self-improvement is forever. I don't plan on just stopping. I've said this before. You're either a tomato that's ripening or a tomato that's rotting, right? So personal development's been huge for me. And some of those things include books and podcasts and association, getting around amazing people. Cameron and I happen to be part of Master Networks. It's a great organization, not perfect, but it's a great organization of positive, learning-based people that want to grow. They have a growth mindset. But so, in terms of books, I'll just throw it a little out of sequence in terms of our formatting here, but I know you had it up for a moment there. One of the books that Cameron and I love, we've had Bob Berg on our show, the book, The Go-Giver Leader, though. There's a really good book version, and I'm in the middle of re-listening to it right now, by Bob Berg and John David Mann. And go get it. Again, learning disabled, for me, reading is torturous, but listening has been amazing. So it's actually narrated by the authors. So go get it if you want. And it really talks about how you can be better as a leader in terms of giving, not taking, but giving. So again, let the book speak for itself. And yeah, you put up another one, which is, soundtracks. Phenomenal book. And that book, there it is, by John Acuff. I'm blessed that John just agreed to accept me on LinkedIn, but a great, and it's actually narrated by him, and really, really good book. Really good book in terms of how to reprogram yourself for success. And then the last one is David Goggins. You Can't Hurt Me. Oh my gosh, that one, unbelievable. You wanna get shaken and choked out basically by him. And yeah, he's just what a story. I mean, former Navy SEAL guy, crazy, inner city, just a crazy story, and how he's overcome that and continues to challenge himself. So those are some tools you want to just continue to work on being the best version that you could be, and reprogram your brain, right? We all know, hopefully most of us know, that the brain is like a computer, and you can't erase what's there, but you could overwrite it. And you overwrite it through the things you put in your brain, okay, in that computer, right? And just so you know, one of the most viable, effective ways to reprogram, and people take it very much for granted, is this thing, this tongue. It's scriptural, right? It's the power of life and death is in the tongue. I mean, and what do I mean by that? Well, when you speak, you're programming. And whose voice do we hear more, Cameron, throughout the day than anyone? Our own self, right? And so we're programming our brain. And by the way, there's sort of a scientific study that when you hear your own voice, you're hearing it through your inner ear. Because if you've ever listened to yourself on a machine, I don't answer machines, nobody does that much anymore. But if you would hear yourself externally, you're like, that doesn't really sound like me. Well, that's because you're listening it through your outer ear when you hear it that way. But when you're speaking, you hear your own voice through the inner ear. And that supposedly inner ear is tied back to the subconscious brain more directly than the outer ear is. So you're really going in deep. And again, if you listen to or read Master Key to Riches and Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, he says that is tied to infinite intelligence, he refers to it, aka God or higher power, right? And there's a link to that. So it's really wild if you make sure. And what I was taught years ago is, if you say it, imagine if whatever you say comes true. Okay, so those are some things to think about. And then I know we're getting towards the top of the hour here, or half hour, but just make sure that you're now, once you've got yourself in a good place, and you don't have to be perfect. We're always going to be work in progress.
Yeah, we're always, yeah.
Yeah. Now reach out and help somebody. Reach out and someone in need. I'm going to recommend, as soon as you're done listening to this, call somebody and say, hey, I was thinking about you. You're on my heart. What can I do to help you? You'll be surprised. It'll bring such amazing joy to you by just uplifting and encouraging somebody and being the light, as we say all the time in the show. And it's funny because listening to that quote from the movie, and I know that's not originally from the movie. It was, and it's escaping me on the lady that created that quote originally, but how she talks about in that quote, in that poem, if you will, about being the light, right? But we can use us as a beacon of light and really be an uplifter and encourager to the entire world, and really make a difference. And again, one person, one life that you can change or save, what is that worth?
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
I'll just say this, because I interviewed Glenn Lundy, who has the Morning Five, very similar to like Miracle Morning, but he's big car dealership guy, big sales guy, has a morning show of his own. And we were interviewing, great interview on BizDev Live. If you haven't caught Glenn Lundy, you don't know who Glenn Lundy is, definitely get introduced to him. But there was a real interesting moment in the interview where he said, I have to, and then he quickly switched it up and said, I get to, because he heard himself doing something. And I bring this up because the most successful of us, the most forward thinking, the most, on point, we know what to do, and sometimes we struggle doing it. And he, in that moment, it was, I have to, no, I get to. And that switching up of the mind, and that's what we're talking about. It's going from self-oriented to selfless and understanding what you need to be grateful for to let that empower your mission go forward, being the light, understanding the opportunities that you have, being open to that in the world. That is what we're talking about today. So I love what you're talking about, the books that you're recommending. I got to pick up You Can't Hurt Me and Soundtracks because I haven't read those yet. The Go Giver Leader, I haven't either because I love the Go Giver and I haven't read the Go Giver Leader. So anybody that's out there that wants to pick up those books and have a conversation, we'll read them together. I got a lot of books on my Audible list thanks to Steve. Please do follow up with us and have that conversation. Reach out to Steve. Steve, close us out here.
Well, first of all, I don't know if we gave credit to, but we have a couple sponsors. Wes Lemos from Sales Connector, who's been helping us tremendously, and Jordan Mendoza with Blaze Your Own Trail. And they're actually going to be guests on our show moving forward too. But appreciate them. And listen, you guys, the audience, you guys, the viewers, you guys are why we're here. And we want to be an uplifter, encourager for you. We want to be the light for you, but we want to, take I remember being in a huge ballroom with thousands of people and somebody, had a candle, they lit a candle, and probably today with the fire marshal, you can't do it inside of a space anymore. And now with COVID, it's probably worse, but they one by one lit a candle, and then, people started to light other people's candle. And then and it was darkness, but by the time it was done, the whole place was lit like crazy. And that's what it is. And so your light can light others, and they light others, and this world will be bright again. And so I'm just going to encourage you to be the light. So we're going to count down here to crush it. So I appreciate you all. We're going to be back again next week. Cameron, do you remember who we have next week?
We're closing out this 4 pillars of what we like to do on the show, which is helping people connect, right? Connect with other people. We want to make sure that as you guys are sort of getting into this stuff with us, that you understand where we're coming from. So that was the point of this march, to really get us going. And so next week, we've done that. And so next week, March 30th, right? We have Heather Hakes on the power of winning habits. And
It'll be amazing. She's amazing. It's going to be a great show. We're super excited. So again, if you want to figure out ways in which you could, take those winning habits to really be a blessing, and to take some of the things we talked about today, we could come to next week's show, share it out to your community. But we're going to count down here because we promised we keep the show to 30 minutes. So
we didn't do so great on the 30-minute thing today, but we'll get it going here. We're going to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you're going to count down with us. You know how we do. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Crush it.
Go out and have an amazing week. Hang on. I got a couple of call to actions for you. We'll be back next week with Heather Hakes, The Power of Winning Habits. Thank you all so much for watching and being a part of the show. You make this fun for us. Thank you for watching the show. I have two big call to actions for you. Number 1, if you haven't clicked on the bell on Steve Spiro, the Master Connectors profile, go to that bell, hit it so you never miss this live show and post from Steve Spiro. And then the second big request is, if you're interested in learning from Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, and myself, Cameron Toth, host of BizDev Live and the co-host of this show, June 7th and 8th, we are conducting a workshop. We got a lot going on. And for anybody that gets in early, I know you don't know the cost, you don't know all the details. June 7th and 8th, you just got a date. It's going to be a virtual conference, but we got a lot coming into it. If you're interested in being a part of that, take a leap, get into Steve Spiro's DMs, hit him with #workshop. We got some extras coming your way, whether or not you register for the conference at all. We just want to see if you're interested. So let us know that, and we look forward to seeing you next week. All right, that's our show. Thanks, everybody. Have an amazing week, everybody.